place where it is safe, appropriate, and comfortable for you, please close your eyes and begin to take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and mind. With every exhale, feel like you're letting go of all tension from your body, along with anything from your mind that you do not want. Inhaling light and peace, and exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily and effortlessly burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us feeling safe and serene. Into this space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and God. Into the sacred space, we also invite the presence of our angels, our guides, our teachers. We ask that they guide us as we walk along the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, and more loving people. Thank you very much. Blessed be. Today, we are going to discuss the topic of money and prosperity because that has been coming up a lot for people. I've been getting a lot of questions about it. I know we have plenty of recordings and lectures about such things, but I do believe that it is helpful to bring some craft principles into play when we are thinking in terms of money and prosperity. First and foremost, it's important to understand that money is merely a symbol of exchange. It represents freedom. It represents luxury. And it cannot be inherently either good or evil. It just depends on how that money is used. A lot of people talk about building a prosperity consciousness or a wealth consciousness, and that is a real thing. You build such a consciousness through choosing thoughts rather than just thinking thoughts. In fact, most of what we call thinking is not really thinking at all. It's just allowing the group mind or the law of averages to think for us. When we think on our own, we choose thoughts. We choose our thoughts and we choose them carefully. If thoughts are just being thought through us, we are doing nothing more than thinking with the group mind, with the mind of humanity. And the mind of humanity gets stuck in thought grooves very easily. And the thought grooves that humanity thinks about money and prosperity are usually not the most healthy of all thoughts. So it's very important for us to recognize the thoughts that we have about money, about anything, but today we happen to be talking about money, and realize that we have a choice as to which thoughts we will think. So to develop a prosperity consciousness simply means to choose our thoughts consciously that we desire to think about money, realizing that our thought world is the architect of our objective world. So there's many ways of doing that. Affirmative thoughts, prayers, spells, visualizations, treasure maps, all of those things are worthwhile endeavors, but we have to be careful that we don't become superstitious about the methods that we use to choose our thoughts. Many people have a hard time taking control of their mind without some sort of aid. And that's where things like spellcasting and magical operations come into play. And you get the added benefit of being able to join with other people who have used certain techniques and symbols and operations and borrow the Akashic energy. Sometimes people forget that's why we use certain symbols, because of the Akashic energy involved. And they believe that those things then become powerful in and of themselves. And we've talked about superstition before, so I don't want to belabor that point, but it's very important to realize that what our goal is not to rely on superstition when we're building a prosperity or a wealth consciousness. We want to rely on our minds. True desire comes from divinity. Désir is from the Father, of the Father. Desire really means that which is divinely guided. So a true desire of the heart, or a righteous desire of the heart, as it's often called, is really our own soul seeking expression. So if you have the true desire to be wealthy, that is a holy desire. There are many ways to think about money, but money itself is not inherently evil or good. It's so important to realize this. And that if you have the desire to be financially free and prosperous, that's a holy desire, and you deserve to have that desire be met. This desire should not be condemned at all, but it should be something that you guide constructively. Trusting in the divine presence within you, infinite intelligence within you, recognizing that your mind is part of the one mind. And that since your mind is part of the one mind, it can either gravitate toward the group ego or the species consciousness, the law of averages, or it can gravitate toward the divine mind, that creative power that many people call God or goddess. The divine mind is accessible within each mind. We each have access to the divine mind within us. We don't have to search outside of ourselves. We must search within ourselves. When we access this divine mind and learn how to trust and let go and realize that divine mind not only wants for us to prosper, desires for us to prosper, but is the same mind that placed that desire into our hearts and is capable of helping us to achieve that desire. We have to recognize that we must be co-creators with this divine mind because we have been gifted with free will. And we can use our minds any way we desire to use our minds. And if we make a choice to turn our focus and our mental attention toward that divine mind within us that is the source of all prosperity, that choice will yield great results for us, especially if that becomes a habit that we get into using over time. This is an immortal presence, an eternal presence within us, and it never goes away, but it can seem as though that presence ebbs and flows, but that's based upon our attention ebbing and flowing, and we want to keep our attention focused on that because that is where our power is. This is often called by many people divine supply. Now, divine supply in the magical tradition that I walk upon is called Shekinah. And Shekinah simply means divine substance or the dwelling place of God, and is oftentimes depicted as the female expression of God. Divine substance is often depicted as glittering fairy dust. In any story or movie or TV show or illustration of magic, they have some kind of magic wand or magic powers. Very often before a manifestation occurs, there is glitter and fairy dust and magic substance or a puff of smoke that is depicted. And that is our own divine minds expressing itself through these artistic expressions, because that is a truth. That is a truth, that this substance is there first and then the manifestation. So it behooves us to sit and visualize that substance anytime that we feel we need something. So if you're in need of finances, if you're in need of money, you can think about what you need and then start to visualize that substance in place of that need. If you have a wallet that you carry cash in, you can visualize that wallet just brimming over with that divine substance. Even your bank balance on your computer screen, you can see that brimming over with divine substance. Divine substance has no limits. It can manifest in any amount or any form. There's absolutely no limit. Now, oftentimes we have a desire and we just don't know how to fulfill it. What we need is divine guidance in those cases. Sometimes we think I should just visualize divine substance and it should appear before me and I shouldn't have to do anything. I shouldn't have to have any kind of action. And that's not usually the case. Usually there has to be an action on our part when we want to have an experience of greater prosperity. But a lot of times what happens is we take our cue from the world. People say, oh, you have to do this, and then you have to do that. Maybe you go to some sort of success seminar and they give you a bunch of action steps that you need to take. Sometimes those things can be very valuable, but sometimes they can actually just be stress-inducing. When it comes time to taking action, my recommendation is that you get very silent, that you relax your body, you relax your mind, and you get used to going inside of that silent, still, small space within you, into the darkness, if you will. And you ask, what do I need to do? What do I need to say? How do I need to act in order for my desire to be manifest? And you will be shown, you will be guided. Now, sometimes if you happen to be clairaudient, you might receive a voice. If you are clairvoyant, you might see a vision. But frequently, people don't have those skills, and you just have to follow your gut instinct. You have to learn how to follow those impulses and differentiate between when the impulses are divinely guided and when they are fear-based. Infinite intelligence, unless you're in extreme danger, very rarely gives you fear. Sometimes you'll get a real quick pang of fear or panic in order to alert you to the fact that there's danger. But that's not the norm. Normally, what happens with infinite intelligence when you are being guided and led is you get a sense of something that is making your heart sing. You get the sense of something that, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be lovely if? And you get an inner urging to move forward along a path. And that's infinite intelligence guiding you and leading you. And the way you get better and better at following these urgings is by doing just that. Following those urgings, following your hunches. When you ignore hunches, then you're telling your deep mind, don't listen to intuition. And then you believe that you no longer have those hunches. That's not really the case. Those hunches are always there. It's just that if you don't follow them, you are telling your mind to ignore them. If that's been you, you can start to reorient yourself toward that divine guidance by just allowing yourself to sit and listen and feeling guided, feeling led. And you can ask for definite leads. You can ask for that. You can say, give me a definite lead. I need to know exactly what to do in this situation. And it can be uncanny how those leads come to you. In addition to being intuitively led down a certain path, having inner urgings, you can get omens. You can have somebody just call you up out of the blue. You can have all kinds of things happen to you when you ask for it. You just keep coming back again and again to that inner guidance, to that inner knowingness. Many people have a problem in that they don't really know what they want. They just know what they don't want. For instance, sometimes people come to me with this need for prosperity, and I say, what would you like? And they'll say, I don't know. I just want these problems to go away. Having the desire for problems to go away can be motivating, but by itself, it's not the highest expression of a desire to follow. So it's fine to say, I want to eliminate these problems, but it really needs to be followed up with, what would I like in their stead? What would I like in place of this? If it weren't for these problems, what would I be doing? What would my day look like? What would my bank account look like? What kinds of possessions would I have, and why are those possessions important to me? It's not so much that we are going to do what so many people with things like law of attraction, and a lot of times people with magic, is they say, okay, now I get it's like an Amazon shopping list, and I just give it to God, and God will give it back to me in the form of my desires being met. That's not it. That's not it at all. Our job is to look underneath the surface of what we want that money for, what the functions of those possessions, the money, those desires. What will they give us? It's not enough to say, oh, I'll get a new car. It's not enough to say, oh, I'll get that bill paid. It's not enough to say, I won't have this problem anymore. That's not enough to have the amount of power necessary to make a manifestation. we have to ask ourselves, what is its function? What is its purpose? Why do I want the money? Once that bill is paid and I no longer have that obligation, what's next? What do I want? And why do I want it? And what will it truly bring me? And what will it truly bring the world? Then you are tapped into that infinite intelligence within you, and you can very definitely feel guided and led as you walk upon the way to prosperity. It's a royal road. It's a royal road that you are meant to be walking on. Royalty has wealth. Royalty has riches. And that royal road to wealth is your birthright. It's your inheritance. But until you can wake up to the fact that you are a member of a royal family and that you are entitled to the prosperity that is yours, until you wake up to that fact and realize that you are going to continue living in that prince and the pauper fairy tale, where you are a prince or princess that believes that you're a pauper, that believes that you are born into problems, born into poverty, born into issues. And the species consciousness is very interested in supporting you in staying stuck. Especially if this world shows you that you were born into poverty. Maybe in this world you were born into a poor situation. Maybe your family's always been poor. Maybe you come from very meager means. And so the world has taught you this over and over again. And you believe it because there's nothing but that evidence to support you. So why would you ever reach for anything other than that? Luckily for all of us, there are many examples of people turning away from poverty, even generational poverty, and being lifted out of it. And so it can be very advantageous to read stories of such things, read biographies of people that came from rags to riches, just to show your deep mind that not only is it possible, but if they can do it, so can I. And it's not so much that you want to follow their steps, because they may or may not have been divinely guided and led all the time. They may have had a very circuitous route that you don't need to take. It's just the fact that they did it that's important. So that when you get back into your own work, in your own inner work on yourself, that you can be divinely guided and led, because your ego mind is not as equipped with data to prove to you that it's not possible for you. So you need to impregnate your deep mind with the idea that it's not only possible for you to be wealthy, but it's inevitable for you to be wealthy. In the process of doing this, it's essential that you do not condemn or judge other people's wealth. And that can be very challenging, because there are so many wealthy people that seem to misuse their wealth. There are many people that seem to have gotten their wealth through unsavory means. And you have to understand that the appearance of wealth in those cases is not actual wealth. It's a type of poverty. You can have poverty even though you demonstrate financial wealth. There are so many wealthy people financially who are poverty-stricken internally. They have problem upon problem. Their health is bad. Their family relationships are bad. They have legal problems. It's a burden to those people, this financial wealth. That's not the kind of wealth we're talking about. When we're talking about true divine wealth, we're talking about walking on the royal road of riches, where all of your needs are met at every moment of time and point of space. That you don't need to stockpile. You don't need to worry about your money ebbing and flowing. That infinite intelligence carries with it all the wealth that you could ever require. So when you start condemning other people's wealth, and you start making an inventory about who deserves wealth and who doesn't deserve wealth, and those people are dishonest and those people don't deserve it, or you get jealous of people's possessions, you get jealous of people's income, those sorts of thoughts, what they do is they tend to impoverish you, because you are turning your mind back into that realm of species consciousness rather than infinite wealth that exists within you through infinite intelligence. It's almost trite these days to say thinking negatively brings loss, but thinking positively brings prosperity. Yet on some level, it's true. Watching how we use our mind shows us our prosperity meter within. What are we condemning? How often are we condemning? What are we blessing? How often are we blessing? The more we bless, the more prospered we become. The more we condemn, the more impoverished we become. That's not to say that we can't see behavior out in the world and say no, and put a boundary up and say, no, I'm not going to be part of this. No, this is not good for me. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what you indulge in mentally. Are you attracted to things in the world where you get to indulge in the constructs of poverty on any level? Or are you spending more of your time blessing the people, regardless of what they are doing to others? In fact, sometimes when people are misbehaving, even misbehaving with their wealth, they are craving your blessings more than anybody. If you can detach from what you believe that you see, and you can learn to bless indiscriminately, rather than you deserve my blessings, you don't deserve my blessings, you deserve my blessings, you don't deserve my blessings. If you can start to learn how to bless indiscriminately, then you get to access your prosperity indiscriminately. It behooves you to seek wisdom rather than money. If you can ask for wisdom rather than money, then you are following the path of that biblical character called King Solomon. King Solomon attributed all his wealth to the fact that when God asked for what he wanted, he said, all I want is wisdom. Didn't say I want wealth, didn't say I want clothes, didn't say I want power, didn't say I want to have anything other than wisdom. And so when King Solomon asked for wisdom, God granted King Solomon wisdom and everything that came along with it. King Solomon is you. It's not a figure in history. King Solomon is you in potential. So you can be as wealthy as King Solomon if what you ask for is wisdom. When you go through anything in your life, if you ask for wisdom, you are asking for true prosperity. And it can be a challenging discipline when you have a bill to pay or when you have an obligation to meet, financially speaking, to not say, I need money, but instead to say, please bring me wisdom. But when you ask for wisdom, everything that comes along with that wisdom is granted you. So not only do you get the financial resources to pay that bill, but you get the wisdom to pay that bill as well. Because there's many ways that you can handle your money and your prosperity. And if you have wisdom, then those ways are divine. But if you don't have that wisdom, just getting that money isn't going to help you one bit. So as we work through the different aspects of our lives, we have to understand that our dissatisfactions are a cry for wisdom. We believe that the dissatisfactions in our lives are a cry for money. We believe that they're a cry for some resource in the world. If you have a dissatisfaction in a relationship, you may believe that it's a call for a healing of the relationship. It may be, but if you look at it as a cry for wisdom and you go for the wisdom first, then the healing of that relationship is going to take the form that it needs to take rather than the form that you believe it should take in that moment. Because you see, if you are coming from a mindset of poverty in any moment, you'll know that's true based on the fact that you think that you need to respond to a situation based on what the form of that situation is. But if you look at that situation and you say, I don't know what this situation is, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this needs, but I do know that it calls for wisdom. So if I ask for wisdom in this situation and I want nothing more than wisdom and nothing less than wisdom, then everything that's necessary to heal that situation is granted me and the wisdom to carry it out. This is true abundance. This is true abundance. And in order to tap into this abundance as this divine source of energy, we must learn to, quote, feed the poor. Within you, there are the poor. There are the thought forms within you that are struggling and striving and grasping. And what needs to be fed is the hunger for wisdom. Within any situation, you ask for wisdom and you work for wisdom, then you will know how to respond to each and every situation because you will be guided and you will be led. And you're no longer making your own decisions based on fear and reacting to what you believe is before you. You're instead saying, I don't know what this is. I recognize that this world is a tricky world. It's a tricky world of illusions that's always sleight of hand. So I don't know what this really is, but I do know this isn't right. So what I want is wisdom. During times of suffering, during times of fear, during times of hardship, relying on wisdom as the sole source of resolution is wise. Wisdom is self-perpetuating. When you ask for wisdom in any situation, you will be granted the solution to what you need. And then it's just up to us to learn how to follow our intuition, how to follow how we are being guided and led. And when we're off the path, noticing it. You can tell when you're off the path. You could become afraid again. You desire to go into the world and try to change things in the world rather than change your mind about the world. And when you do that, you say, oh, I'm off. I need wisdom again. Let me ask for wisdom one more time. Ultimately, by fully accepting the presence of infinite intelligence within you, that part of your mind that is connected to the infinite, by fully accepting and connecting with that through the silent times during the day, you can ascend into a connection that brings profound abundance and prosperity into every area of your life. And if you're not demonstrating profound abundance and prosperity in every area of your life, it just means that there's more work to be done. It's not that you should feel bad about yourself. It's not that you should feel like a failure. It's to recognize that it is heroic to even attempt to ascend in the first place, and to really encourage yourself and to really let yourself off the hook and know that you're doing great even thinking along these lines. Really encourage yourself to keep going within and following that guidance that infinite intelligence gives you, and recognizing that the fact that you're doing that makes such a difference, not only in your life, but in everybody's life. Sometimes you're going to get it right, and sometimes you're not, and that's okay. Let's be patient and kind and loving with ourselves, one little step at a time, asking for wisdom at every turn, and realizing that the desire of the infinite within us is for us to be successful, prosperous, healthy, free, and happy, and that we can accept that will for ourselves. That's a constant choice and a constant decision that we must make. And that decision is always a decision between whether I'm going to try to fix the world as I see it, or whether I'm going to go within and ask for wisdom and be shown another way. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.